It's your brother from another mother, Evil Aniki, and today we're answering the age-old question, is Anime Expo worth it? This has probably got to be the number one question I get asked about Anime Expo from people who've never attended Anime Expo. And to be fair, this is probably the number one question I get asked about any convention from people who've never gone to that convention. Whenever I post a video, usually the following year, that video is just going to be bombarded with questions like, how do I do badge pickup? How much are the tickets? Is it worth it? Can you tell me more about this? It's I'll answer as best as I can. Sometimes I'm just like, you could just go ask this convention company on Twitter or on uh, Instagram, and they'd probably respond to you as well. Like, I don't know why you're coming to my videos. I mean, I don't know. It's a different topic, but yeah. So is Anime Expo worth it? So I would always say that Anime Expo is worth it. I will say there's a lot of caveats to that though. For someone who's never been to Anime Expo is a beast. Anime Expo is very, very large. There's a lot of people who go to Anime Expo. It is the largest anime convention outside of Japan, if I'm correct about that, and it's the largest anime convention in America. It's not, and that's just anime conventions. So there are larger gaming conventions. There are larger comic conventions. I'm sure San Diego Comic Con is probably a little bit bigger than Anime Expo. But as far as ticket prices go, they're actually pretty comparable, which is interesting to think about. But also, San Diego Comic Con has a preview night, so it's technically like a 5-day con. When are we getting a preview night for Anime Expo? Anime Expo used to have like a fifth day for I mean, it still does have a fifth day. They have a day zero for badge pickup, and previously some other like of like companies and events used to book stuff around on day zero so people could come pick up their badge because the Anime Expo didn't used to always mail you your badge. It used to, maybe they did that, but a lot of times people would just go pick up because Anime Expo being local to LA, a lot of the people who go to Anime Expo are going to be people from LA. So having an on-site badge pickup for a convention like Anime Expo makes a lot of sense. Uh, I would not recommend it though. You're just going to waste your time with on-site badge pickup. To be honest, like I want to get into the convention as soon as possible and run through the floors. Having it mailed to you is so much better, or going on day zero is so much better. Uh, a lot of conventions do day zero. Anime Pasadena, Anime Riverside, probably Anime Las Vegas too. They do day zeros, and I would highly recommend doing, badge pickup for day zero for those conventions as well. I've done day zero badge pickup for Anime Pasadena before, and I've also not done it before. And yeah, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. Um, but yeah, going back to the main topic, is Anime Expo worth it? So the price is expensive, but you're going to get a lot out of it. So there's going to be a lot of industry panels. There's going to be a lot of freebies. There's going to be a lot of free shows. There's going to be a lot of cosplay meetups. And speaking of cosplay meetups, there's some cosplay meetups at Anime Expo that aren't in the convention center as well. So you don't even need a badge to attend those. I will say a lot of them are inside the convention center now, and they are definitely trying to move them into the convention space because they don't want people to ghost. And if you guys don't know what ghosting is when you go to an anime convention or any convention, but you don't really buy a ticket. Sometimes you can sneak in and just, get into the convention center as well. But most of the times it's usually for cosplayers who are just sort of lurking around the convention because they're going to a bunch of cosplay meetups and not go inside the actual convention, which I ghosted this year for Anime Los Angeles because Anime Los Angeles is such a cosplay heavy convention. All of their cosplay meetups are outside the convention center, and so I went to just 20 different cosplay meetups throughout the 4 days of Anime Los Angeles. I did a lot of videos on it. It was a unique experience. I'd love to change up my experience for anime conventions every year. Some years I focus more on Artist Alley, some years I focus more on the industry floor, some years I focus more on panels or cosplay meetups. I love changing it up and like exploring new things. I think that's probably the best way to experience anime conventions in general. Because I'm going to be honest, doing a little bit of everything is tough if you don't know what you're doing. But if you just do like one year, I'm just going to focus on just going to a bunch of panels, which is what I did last year for Anime Expo. I went to like 20 different panels last year for Anime Expo, and it was interesting. I learned a lot. I will say you can't really do that this year. They're doing a lot of panel timing offset, so you can't just flow into a bunch of panels. So last year I think I did like 20 panels, and this year I think I'm probably going to do like 5 throughout the 4 days, which is unfortunate. Um, but yeah, so I do think Anime Expo is worth it. I do think if you guys, I've already done a video on exclusives and on freebies, and I think if you are into that kind of stuff, you can go look at that video and just see, okay, so this is the kind of stuff that you're going to get for free. You're going to get a bunch of manga samplers, a bunch of, bags and items and pins, and there's going to be a lot of raffles, and always, like, everything I talk about, there's going to be even more at the convention, because there's going to be so many booths and so many companies there that just don't say what they're going to do until they're at the actual convention, because they just like to do that sucker punch, like 1-2 with, like, oh, we're having a surprise, woohoo. And yeah, it just happens. Yeah, so in that sense, if you're looking for stuff and you're looking to, like, especially if you're looking for like a guest of honor ticket signing, if you can get one of those, they are free. Anime Expo does free guest of honor signings. If you can get one of those, definitely worth it. You do need to have a badge to get one of those. So that didn't used to be the case, but now it is the case, and it makes it so much more worth it to go to Anime Expo. Um, Now, there is one big difference with that, is that for Anime Los Angeles, I have heard. One thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about the booklets in a second. I don't have my Anime Los Angeles ones on me, but Anime Los Angeles also does a booklet like this. This is the Anime Expo guide. And for the Anime Los Angeles, they actually have a rule that all the guests have to sign their book. If you bring your book to any of the actual official guests, they have to sign it for free. It's one of the requirements for being a guest at Anime Los Angeles, which I think is crazy. I love it. I love that idea. I think making guests have to sign, and I would still say you have to be, polite about it, and especially if they're doing paid signings, you probably can't harass them at that point. But maybe if they're at like a panel, you can get them to sign it for free, or something like that. Uh, and every guest is going to be different. But going back to Anime Expo, I do think the tickets have gotten a little out of hand, and there's some evidence for this. So now, I did say that the tickets have remained the same since basically coming back from COVID. But let's look at some stuff here from pre-COVID. Let me see here. This is AXGB. I've also AXGB's also remained consistent. I think it's been like $50-$40 for the last. It's been 3 years now. As I think this will be year four. I don't think AXGB is worth it. AXGB needs to get bigger. AXGB is in like the location anime where Anime Los Angeles used to be. So it's built to party and it's built to shop, and I think it has a long ways to go at the moment. This is from what year is this? This is 2023. So you can see here, badge prices were 165 back then, and I still think that's about how they were now. I don't like these badge price increases. And this is about the same price. I will say, I think 2023 was the year they increased the day rate for individual days. Um, Here is 2024. So as you can see, pretty much the same. Um, 2023 was a weird year because it was Saturday to Tuesday. It's normally never Saturday to Tuesday. No one was there on Tuesday. Tuesday was a dead day, and that's why it was $60. Whereas if you look here, the cheapest one is 75, which is crazy to think about. But let's see here. That's not. Uh, but here's something pre-COVID. So this is 2017, and this is a $55 Black Friday sale for Anime Expo. That's insane. Could you imagine getting an Anime Expo? That's like a fourth of the price now. Uh, honestly, this is another thing I want to bring up. If we look at the history for Anime Expo here, so here's what year is it? This is 2017. If we go to the Anime Expo Wikipedia, and we go to 2017, they had 107,000 unique visitors and 357,000 turnstile. Turnstile means people come in and out each day, and so the unique is probably closer to the actual attendance. So 107,000 people. Now, if we go to last year's convention, 2024, uh, they only have the turnstile. Let me see. When's the last year they had a non-turnstile? I don't think they do non-turnstile. So 2017, this was you could get it for $55 if you were lucky on Black Friday. And the turnstile is 357,000. Okay, so now if we go to last year, uh 407,000. So just maybe 50,000 more people ish. And that's not even like the full number. That's just turnstile. So that could be like a quarter of that, to be honest. And but let's also compare to other conventions. So um, that means the convention itself hasn't really increased in size as far as attendance. I will say the guests have remained pretty consistent. And in that note, Anime Expo, I think pre-COVID was probably a lot better than it is now. I will say there's a lot of tourists in the anime community. That's a whole other topic, but I'm not going to get into it. And Anime Expos after COVID really exploded. They've kind of died down, but right after COVID, like most conventions in general, were just massive attendance. The numbers were crazy. It's because people wanted to get out and they wanted to see the world and they wanted to do things. My videos used to do a lot better back then. I miss those views. They were easy back then. Now you have to work for them. But yeah. So let's go to let's look at other badge prices from other conventions that are comparable. So number one that we can compare to is Anime NYC. This is apparently merged with Crunchyroll Expo, which used to be here in California, but now it's merged with a New York City convention. And again, look at this. This price is pretty consistent with Anime Expo. Almost the same exact price for the 4 day. But if you look at the 1 day badges, look at this, $41.67. So the 1 day badges are so much cheaper than Anime Expo. And Anime Expo, they really really gouge you on those 1 day badges, and it really really hurts my soul. I mean, I get why they do it. A lot of people scalp Anime Expo tickets, and it's they don't want as I don't know. It's interesting. I think most conventions would prefer if they could just only sell 4 day badges, and the solo day badges are just to like increase their profits because they're gouging people for the 1 day. Another convention I wanted to look up Anime Central, but I couldn't actually find their price. That's not it. But now let's look at Anime Los Angeles. I love Anime Los Angeles. Their tickets are actually super super fair. So if you buy their early bird, it's $75 for a 4 day convention. If you don't and you just buy it at the door, it's $110 for the full day. But then the individual days are like 45, 55, 65, 55. And then there's a parent tow, which I assume is just means if you're coming and there's a parent with your child or something. I don't know. But this is a super fair price for as far as anime conventions go, especially here in the States. Super fair. This is great. I don't think I do think they've increased their price since coming back. Well, in the last couple of years, I think the first year I bought it, it might have even been cheaper than 75. I don't know, but they've been pretty consistent with their badge prices. Anime Los Angeles is definitely worth it to go inside. Now, another event to check out was we got Anime Matsuri. Anime Matsuri, 25. This is, I believe, in Texas. $25 for Thursday, and then 45, 50, 25. This is probably more of your average, like, Midwest and non-California convention ticket price. In fact, I would say this is pretty much your average ticket price for conventions that aren't Anime Expo or San Diego Comic. Anything that's not larger. They do have special passes here. Anime Expo used to do like a premiere pass, and they don't do it anymore because it was kind of pointless the last year they had it. Um, let's see here. They have a 4 day badge for $65. That's super good. I mean, that's basically just a 1 day badge. Then we also have Otakon. Otakon is do they have a full day for a 3 day? Well, it looks like they're a 3 day con, but they don't have the weekend badge price here. But they do have individual, kind of expensive, but whatever. And now there's one thing I want to talk about, and that's anime conventions in Japan. So I've pulled up two examples for this. The first one we're going to be talking about is Anime Japan. Anime Japan is kind of like one of the biggest anime conventions in Japan that's industry focused. This means like it's gonna have like all the studios go to it, and the tickets for this are 2,600 yen. How much is 2,600 yen? It's not very much. I'm gonna be honest, guys. That's less than $20. That's crazy. And if we look at another convention in Japan, which we got Comiket here. Comiket is kind of like Comiket is like a big artist alley in Japan, and it's probably the biggest convention in the world, or at one point it was the biggest convention in the world as far as anime goes. I mean, probably still is, uh, but we'll talk about that in a second. But it's 5,000 yen, so this is probably roughly what like $40, a little under $40. Yeah, $34. It's crazy. Um, Now that's interesting. I do think. It's interesting that anime conventions are cheaper in Japan. There's also some differences with anime conventions in Japan. Like, for instance, if you're a cosplayer or a photographer, if you get anime conventions in Japan, they also have a thing where you can't just show up in cosplay. Most of them have this, and it's a thing where it's like they have. Well, I wouldn't say most of them have this. I think it's the larger ones do this where they have a specific zone where you're allowed to cosplay because they don't really want people just to cosplay at the convention. Uh, Mainly because they don't want people to think that you're part of the official booth because cosplayers at anime conventions in Japan, it's like a whole industry over there, and so it's like it's there's kind of like a lot of taboos around that. It's also an interesting thing. People don't normally like they change at the convention in Japan. So like uh for conventions in Japan, like Anime Japan and probably Comic and Nico Nico Chokaigi, which I've been to, and just any of those. They usually have three badges that you can get. They're going to have the regular attendee, they're going to have the photographer, and then they're going to have the cosplayer badge. And now each three of these badges, the reason that they're separated like that is because it gets you access to specific zones, and it also gives you different it lets you do different things. So, for instance, if you don't have the cosplayer badge or the photographer badge, there's usually a special zone outside of the convention. So, Nico Nico Chokaigi, outside of the convention center across the street, there's like a whole photographer zone for cosplayers. And it lets you go into there. If you get those badges, you're allowed to bring your professional grade camera and go take photos of the cosplayers there and be professional. But same thing with the cosplayer badge. The cosplayer badge gets you access to. They usually have these foldable tents, and usually they change at the convention. Because most people in Japan usually take the train to the convention center, and so they don't want to go in full blown cosplay to the convention. I'm sure some people do like halfsies on the train, but I'll be honest, like uh, when I went to Nika Niko Chokaigi, um, which is kind of like Nico Nico Chokaigi. I did a video on it, but it was kind of like VidCon meets an anime convention meets Vocaloid. So it was a lot of idols and VTubers and VTuber meet and greets, but it was also like a lot of like Nikkei had a big booth and it was weird. But there's also a lot of cosplayers. It was just kind of like a weird social anime. It's a different vibe out there. Um, but yeah, so they have different tickets out there, and I really would love to see that happen out here for anime conventions. I do think, maybe if Anime Expo started doing that, it would be really nice to see that the cosplay, photo sets. Maybe only cosplayers are allowed to go into that. Cosplayers and photographers are only allowed to go into those sections because it would really cut down the foot traffic for normal people walking through those sections. When it's a big section, but it would also just get rid of people from like lollygag in the area. I don't know. It's a different experience, right? Like do I think it would work? I think people would get confused and people would just instantly break the rules here. I do think you would have to ingrain that mentality into your guests, really, really hard. And I think the first couple of years, people would really, really not like it, and then eventually they'd probably just get used to it. And I mean, that's typically how it goes. You go really hard on some rules, and then it just changes. And I mean, that's the same thing with a lot of things for Anime Expo. But speaking about things that change at Anime Expo, I don't know if you guys saw this. This is this year's Anime Expo badge, and this is actually a big difference. So, this character here, this character has been the one with the what is this reddish hair, brown reddish hair. They're one of the Anime Expo mascots. But Shugo Chara and then Rosen Maiden here on being on that this is just an interesting thing because the last couple of years, if we look at here's 2024. They were really focusing on these characters. The girl with the pink ponytail. They have names. I don't know their names. And then the guy with the silver hair. Same thing for 2023. They focused on them as well, and they've been really focusing on these characters. And I mean, they're focusing on them this year as well, but they're just not on the badge, which is so weird. And then in 2022, I think these are meant to be the same characters, or maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm not too sure. But then also for 2019 and 2018, there they are again. And it's interesting that they've changed it up to be Peach Pit theme. So the reason that Shugo Chara and Rosen Maiden are there is because Peach Pit is a big guest this year, and it's just interesting that they would go out of their way to change their badge. I don't know how I feel about that. It's just interesting in general, and I did show off last year's Anime Expo guide here. You can see the art is big on this as well. Let me see. So you can see the badge sort of matches the booklet. That's not always the case. It was the case for 2023 as well, though. But in 2022, it was different. 2022, they had a specific artist do this, and I like this one a lot. This kind of design reminds me of like a new type magazine almost, right? This screams guide. This screams like magazine. And I actually have two 2022. I collect these, by the way, guys. I don't have many, but I like collecting them. And then I have 2019 and 2018, I think. Yeah, 2019, 2018. And these are way different as well, right? Like, so these they focus on the characters, but like they do scream anime convention guide. That's what they scream out, but they're a lot different because um like if we look at this, this what like they're a little bit different. This one's more like, even though this has really nice art on it, the background is like a solid blue, whereas here there's kind of like a lot of graphical stuff going on or completely all around it. Um, Same thing here. I mean, this one's kind of more comparable, but they also got this giant G general thing here, and then like your adventure awaits. So they got tagline, and this one sort of has some stuff like that down here, but like it's a little bit different. And even with the 2018 one, like these two match a lot more. Like you can see the positioning of like all that. Just, but also one thing the reason I bring these up is because um, the booklets have gotten smaller over the years as well. So these right here from 2018, 2019, these used to be like 108 pages. And nowadays, like for the new ones, after COVID, they're like more like 97-ish pages, which is interesting. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into these. I want to get more of these, and that's actually why I brought these up as well. Is People sell these on eBay. So this one is signed by Mika Akitaka. I don't know who that is, but 100 and almost $200, 180, $60, $170. I don't. My brain's on the fritz. For this signed Anime Expo booklet, but you can also go on here and you can find look at this one, the 2019 one. Um, $30, $30 for this. That's crazy. I don't think you should spend $30 on this. I would love to get like a whole bunch of old guides and just make a whole guide video. It's on my to-do list. And it's crazy because you can go on here and you can find like old guides. Like look at this one. This is the 1992. And look at this. This is so different than like comparably to how they are now. I mean, this is such a simplistic design. I don't think the early guides were actually, I don't even maybe they were. I don't know. But look at this. This is from 1992. This is when they were in Berkeley or something like. Or I wonder if that's just their office. Uh, yeah, I think that just might be their office. I don't think they're still in Berkeley. But like, you can just go through on eBay and you can find a lot of these old guides. I saw someone selling like a huge, collection of them a couple years ago, and I would have gotten it, but it was expensive. But this is super cool. But now, I've kind of rambled on here. Do I think Anime Expo is worth it? Yes, I think Anime Expo is worth it. I think if you are into min-maxing your convention, there's a lot of stuff you can do at Anime Expo. I do wish Anime Expo would get bigger. I think they need to add more days or another weekend to it, or do something to make it a bigger convention instead of just adding more foot space. I think adding more foot space is not the way to go. I mean, it's a good idea, but like also there's other issues with Anime Expo, and I'm going to talk about that in another video. But yeah, if when I go to Anime Expo, I love getting the freebies. If you are like me, I sell them afterwards online. Sometimes, typically it's like the posters or some pins that I'm not too interested in, and that makes some good money. You can I've sold some posters for like $20, stuff like that, and it just offsets the price of the badge, and that's the big thing with Anime Expo is that you're really getting you're getting the experience. For me, I'm meeting up with friends. Anime Expo has been my number one convention for like the last 10 years, but there's a lot that you can do in Anime Expo. So I think it's worth it. I know a lot of people would probably disagree with that just because of how much it is. It's my favorite convention of all time, though, is probably going to be Anime Los Angeles. I would highly recommend you all go to Anime Los Angeles. It's not going to have the same type of industry panels as Anime Expo, but if you're just looking to get into the anime vibes, uh, Anime Los Angeles is so much better. Um, Especially if you're a cosplayer or you're looking to cosplayer, Anime Los Angeles is a lot better. Anime Expo is tough. It's a brutal war zone. In fact, I think I might have had some pictures up for that. Let me see here. Uh, yeah, let's look at this. So yeah, this is just photos. I just wanted to look up like photos of Anime Expo from this is 2014 Anime Expo. Man, I remember waiting in line in this zone right here. This is rough. You can see this like the lines back then. I mean, the lines are still pretty crazy, but like let's look at like as early as we can go. Let's go like 2002, right? Anime Expo 2002. Uh Look at this. It's crazy. Crazy to think about. I don't think all these photos are from 2002. Maybe they are. Um, it's just crazy that you can look up like stuff from like 2002 and just find it, and it's just on the internet. I don't know. I love like the history of anime conventions. I do think anime conventions have taken a turn, especially after COVID. I think there's been a big change. So I think the biggest change to anime conventions happened around like the early 2010s, maybe like 2013, 2014. Uh, Not just anime conventions, but all conventions just exploded in popularity. And then after COVID, they exploded in popularity again. And now we're kind of going back to a little bit closer to pre-COVID levels, but there's still more anime fans in general. And anime's just really exploded in general. I think this goes, for other conventions as well. So one of my other favorite conventions is LA Comic Con. But LA Comic Con wasn't always LA Comic Con. LA Comic Con used to be Kamikaze, and I know it used to be Stan Lee's Comic Con, and then before they called it Stan Lee's Comic Con, they called it Kamikaze, and it's just changed. Like when I went to my first LA Comic Con or Kamikaze was I think when I went, it was less than 10,000 people, and now it's almost the same size as Anime Expo, and that's within just the last 10 years that I've been going. That's crazy. That is crazy to think about. Yeah, but that's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. I know this is a weird video, and I just kind of rambled and talked about random stuff and badge prices. Again, long story short, Anime Expo is worth it. You should check it out. I think there's other conventions out there if you're looking to like, see them. I'm probably gonna do like a convention review of like a bunch of different conventions. I did like top 10 largest conventions, but I'll probably do like, top 10 conventions in California or just stuff like that. But thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.